The aliens, broken and humiliated, fled into the stars. Their fleets vanished, leaving behind only wreckage and silence. For the first time, Earth's skies were clear. Admiral Reyes looked at the stars, his voice quiet. "We are still here." And the galaxy listened. Far away on worlds that had once laughed at Earth, silence fell. The Council of Worlds spoke no more of a fragile planet. They spoke of survivors, of warriors, of humans who had faced an empire and endured. Earth was no longer seen as weak. It was seen with respect and with fear, because the galaxy had learned a truth written in fire. Fragility does not mean weakness. Fragility can mean resilience. A world that bends, but does not break. A people who suffer, but rise again. And from that day forward, one memory echoed across the stars. The day a fragile world unleashed its fleet and proved to the galaxy that it would never kneel. For countless years, humans lived quietly under the shadows of mighty empires. The galaxy was full of powerful races who ruled entire star systems, who controlled great fleets, and who shaped the future of millions. Against such giants, humans were small and weak. They were seen as a species meant only for labor, trade, and silence. No empire feared them, and no leader ever thought the name of humanity would matter in the grand story of the stars. The other races looked at humans with amusement. They allowed them to work in their factories and serve on their ships, but they never gave them respect. To the galaxy, humans were useful only as workers, cheap, clever, but unthreatening. They were treated like tools, not equals. In the marketplaces of distant worlds, it was common to hear an alien laugh and say, "A human will do it. They always do it." Humans bent their heads and accepted this life because there seemed to be no choice. The empires were too vast, too powerful, and too cruel. Resistance was foolish. Hope was dangerous. And so humanity endured, moving through the stars as shadows, never daring to rise against those who looked down on them. But history has a strange way of turning. Sometimes the smallest spark in the darkest corner can set fire to the world. Humanity carried such a spark deep within, though none of the empires cared to notice. Beneath the humiliation, beneath the silence, there was patience, and beneath the patience there was a growing anger. Generations of humans watched their children taken as servants to alien rulers. Generations saw their homes taxed and drained of resources until their worlds grew poor. They saw their families mocked, their voices ignored, and their dreams crushed. Slowly, this quiet pain turned into something sharper. They began to whisper to one another. They began to remember who they once were. On Earth and the scattered colonies, humanity had always survived by adapting. They learned quickly, copied faster, and endured longer than anyone expected. When humans worked in alien shipyards, they memorized every part of the engines they were ordered to repair. When they mined alien worlds, they learned the strengths and weaknesses of the machines they were forced to use. When they served on alien warships, they studied every tactic, every formation, every code of command. The empires believed humans were only servants. They did not see that the servants were learning. Every insult, every burden, and every chain became fuel for a greater purpose. Humans were waiting, silently shaping a knowledge that would one day become their weapon. Still, no empire noticed. Why would they? To them, humans were still small. They had no great armies, no fleets, and no planets worth conquering. They were allowed to live only because they posed no threat. Even when human whispers of freedom began to grow, the empires ignored them, thinking, "Let them dream. It changes nothing." But dreams are dangerous things. In the silence of their hidden places, humans began to build. They shaped weapons out of scraps. They practiced flying ships older than most empires would dare to use. They gathered in secret halls, teaching their children the old stories of strength and courage. Fathers told their sons, "One day, you will stand tall." Mothers told their daughters, "One day you will not kneel." The galaxy never feared humans because it never imagined them as fighters. But the truth was already forming. The truth was that humanity had endured too much, and when endurance ends, rebellion begins. And so humanity's story was preparing to change. Not with a whisper this time, not with bowed heads, but with a storm. No empire feared humans yet, but they would. Oh, they would, because there comes a moment in history when the quiet ones decide they will be quiet no longer, and in that moment, everything changes. The whispers of rebellion grew stronger with every passing year. On human worlds, in the dusty mines and crowded factories, people spoke quietly of freedom. At first, it was only a dream shared in secret. Fathers told stories at night to their children about a future where humans stood equal. Old men and women who had lived long under alien rule would look to the stars and murmur, "One day they will be ours too." The empires did not hear these whispers, or if they did, they laughed at them. To the rulers of the galaxy, humans were nothing more than insects crawling on their colonies, too weak to be warriors, too scattered to unite, too afraid to fight. That was the mistake of the empires. They saw only weakness, but they never saw the fire hiding beneath the weakness. Humanity was learning, quietly, carefully. They were turning their suffering into knowledge. The galaxy gave them no schools of war, so they studied in silence. When humans worked as mechanics on alien ships, they memorized the engines. When they labored as builders on strange worlds, they learned the strengths and flaws of alien materials. Even in the role of servants, they were watching, listening, and preparing. There were moments when this secret strength began to show. Small uprisings broke out in remote colonies. An empire ship would demand more tribute, and the villagers would refuse. A tax collector would vanish into the night and never return. A warehouse of supplies would explode in fire. These events were dismissed as accidents, as isolated madness. But the truth was different. Each spark was part of something bigger. On the colony world of Kareth 9, a group of miners were pushed beyond their limit. They had been forced to work for years in dangerous tunnels while their families starved. When alien soldiers demanded more, the miners fought back with only their tools. Hammers, drills, and fire from fuel tanks became weapons in their hands. That night, the miners won. It was a small victory, but it spread like wildfire through the human colonies. For the first time, people whispered not only of hope, but of action. Still, the empires refused to take humans seriously. When reports of rebellion reached their courts, the rulers sneered. "Let the humans struggle," they said. "It will break their spirits faster than chains." They believed humans would never rise beyond scattered riots. But while the empires laughed, humanity was building something greater. Hidden far from alien eyes, secret workshops came to life. Old ships were rebuilt with new weapons. Broken engines were repaired with stolen parts. Young men and women trained in caves and forests, learning to fight in ways the empires could not predict. The galaxy's great powers fought with honor, with order, with tradition. But humans had none of these rules. They were not raised to fight fairly. They were raised to survive, and survival makes dangerous soldiers. Across the stars, the words spread like a song. "We will not bow." It was spoken in the crowded streets of Earth's old cities, whispered in the dark tunnels of colonies, shouted in the winds of barren planets. The words became a promise, and the promise became a movement. Still, no empire feared them. The galaxy's rulers believed the humans' anger would soon burn out, that their rebellion would crumble against true armies. But the rulers did not understand what humans had endured for centuries. Pain had made them strong, suffering had made them patient, and patience had given them time to prepare. The storm was coming, though the galaxy could not yet see it. In every hidden place, humans sharpened their blades and strengthened their hearts. They were no longer only dreamers. They were becoming fighters. And when the day came, when the first true battle was fought, the galaxy would remember. For now, humanity was still gathering its strength, still holding its fire in silence. But the silence was breaking. and soon the stars themselves would hear their cry. The first true spark of open war began on a quiet human colony called Rhinar. It was a small world, far from the central trade routes, known only for its fertile fields and its hard-working farmers. For years, the people of Rhinar gave tribute to the empire that ruled them: grain, ores, and even young children taken away to serve as workers. The colony lived in silence, enduring the humiliation, just as humans always had. But one day, the empire demanded too much. Its ships descended from the sky like vultures. Soldiers marched into the villages, ordering the people to hand over their harvest and surrender more of their children. Families wept as they were forced to choose between giving away their sons and daughters or facing the soldiers' weapons. That night, the leaders of the colony gathered in secret. They were not soldiers, only farmers and miners. Yet their hearts were heavy with anger. One old man said, "If we give them our children, we are already dead." Another whispered, "We have no ships, no armies. How can we fight?" Silence followed. Then a young woman stood and said, "With what we have, with our hands, our tools, and our courage, we fight or we die as slaves." The first ships were rough. Their armor was patched together. Their weapons looked strange, built from scraps of mining lasers and broken cannons. But they worked. They flew. And more importantly, they belonged to humanity. For the first time, humans were not stealing ships. They were making them. To keep their work safe, entire communities sacrificed themselves. On one world, when an empire fleet came searching, the people refused to reveal the secret dock hidden under their mountains. The soldiers burned the town, killed hundreds, but no one spoke. The dock survived, and the ships inside were finished. Those ships would later fight battles that changed history. Every new vessel carried with it the weight of sacrifice. When a human warship launched from its hidden dock, the people who built it cheered through their tears. Many had lost loved ones to protect it, but seeing it rise into the stars gave them strength. Each ship was more than metal. It was a promise that humans would not be erased. The galaxy laughed less now. Some still mocked the rebellion, saying, "Their ships are fragile, their numbers too small." But others began to whisper, in fear, "What if they grow stronger? What if they rise?" And rise they did. Slowly, painfully, humanity was building not just ships, but hope. They were carving a future out of steel, fueled by sorrow and courage. They were preparing for the day when they would no longer hide, when their fleet would emerge from the dark. The cost was endless, but the dream was alive. Humanity was bleeding, but it was also becoming something the galaxy had never seen before, an unbreakable force. And though no empire admitted it, the stars were beginning to shift. Something was coming, something the galaxy would never forget. For years, the galaxy had laughed at the thought of human warships. They believed humans were too weak, too poor, too scattered to build a real fleet. The empires told themselves that even if humans managed to build ships, they would be nothing more than fragile toys easy to crush. But the day finally came when humanity stepped out of the shadows. It began with a message. Across the stars, reports spread that 3 mighty empires had united their fleets to end the human rebellion once and for all. They had grown tired of the raids, the ambushes, the constant unrest. They gathered 200 ships, war cruisers, battleships, and carriers, an armada so powerful that no single race could stand against it. Their plan was simple: find the human fleet, destroy it, and erase humanity from history. The empires thought it would be easy. They thought it would be quick. Then the humans arrived. Out of the silence of a dead star system, 50 ships emerged. They were not beautiful like the shining cruisers of the empires. They were rough, scarred, and built from the sweat of countless hands. Their armor was patched, their shapes uneven, their designs strange. But they carried something the galaxy had never seen before: pure human ingenuity. Every ship was built not for pride, but for survival. Each cannon was deadly, each engine designed for speed and surprise. Their weapons were made to cripple larger ships, their armor layered with clever tricks to absorb enemy fire. They were not the toys the galaxy expected. They were wolves among lions. The battle began with thunder. The Empire's fleets advanced in proud formations, confident of victory. But the humans did not fight with order. They scattered, they darted, they struck from angles no admiral had ever considered. Small ships danced around giants, biting at their weak points. Ambushes were set within the very battlefield itself, mines hidden in the debris, explosives, disguised as broken satellites, energy traps waiting in the dark. The galaxy had always fought with honor. Humans fought with survival. And survival proved stronger. The clash raged for hours. Human ships burned, falling one by one. But they did not fall alone. For every vessel destroyed, 3 enemy ships went with it. For every human pilot lost, an entire enemy crew was silenced. They fought with fury, with desperation, with a fire that could not be extinguished. When the battle ended, silence fell across the system. The humans had lost 40 ships. Their fleet was nearly gone. But of the 200 enemy vessels, only 40 remained. The rest had been shattered, burned, or left drifting helplessly among the stars. The empires could not believe it. How could 50 human ships destroy 160 of theirs? How could a species they once called weak and useless stand against the greatest fleets of the galaxy? The answer was simple. Humans refused to bow. News of the battle spread like lightning. Every empire heard the whispers. Every ruler felt the tremble of fear in their hearts. No one laughed at humanity anymore. No one dared to call them pets. For the first time, the galaxy looked at humans not with pity but with fear. The survivors of the human fleet limped home, their ships broken, their numbers small. Yet when they returned, they were greeted not with mourning but with songs of triumph. Children cheered their names. Mothers wept with pride. Fathers stood tall. For though many had been lost, humanity had proven the truth. They were no longer weak. They were no longer slaves. They were warriors who could stand against the stars. The galaxy had changed forever, because on that day, humanity showed its teeth. And from that day forward, no empire dared to forget them. The great battle had ended, but the war was not over. Humanity had bled. Humanity had suffered, yet humanity still stood. The galaxy no longer laughed at them, no longer called them weak, no longer saw them as pets. For the first time in history, the galaxy feared humans. But fear alone was not enough. Humanity knew the empires would come again. They would regroup, rebuild, and strike back harder than before. If humans wished to survive, they could not remain only rebels hiding in shadows. They needed more than courage, more than scattered victories. They needed unity. So the call went out. Across every colony, every hidden world, every settlement. Where humans lived, a single message was spoken. Join us. Stand with us. Together, we rise. And they did. Farmers, miners, teachers, traders, ordinary men and women left behind their old lives and joined the cause. Engineers built ships in secret. Pilots trained in silence. Soldiers marched with hope in their hearts. For the first time, all of humanity looked not at their chains, but at the stars, and called them their own. The empires could not understand it. They believed fear would keep humans down. They believed punishment would break them. But punishment had only made them stronger. Pain had only forged their will. Suffering had only made their spirit unbreakable. Soon, human fleets grew larger. No longer 50 ships, but hundreds. Each one carried the memory of sacrifice, the dreams of children, and the courage of those who had died. Every ship was built not for conquest, but for survival. Yet in their survival, they became unstoppable. The final turning point came when the 3 great empires once again tried to crush humanity. They gathered another massive fleet, determined to erase humans before their strength grew beyond control. But this time, the humans were ready. This time, they did not scatter like prey, they stood as hunters. The battle was long and merciless. Stars themselves seemed to tremble under the fire. Human ships fought with every trick, every strategy, every ounce of will. They moved like shadows, struck like thunder, and endured like stone. And when the dust cleared, the empires were broken. Their fleets shattered, their pride ruined, their fear absolute. From that day, everything changed. The galaxy no longer whispered about humans as rebels. They spoke of them as warriors, as equals, as a people who could never again be enslaved. Treaties were offered. Borders were respected. The empires who once laughed now bowed their heads when humans entered their halls. But humanity did not become tyrants. They did not conquer worlds for glory. They remembered the pain of chains, the taste of humiliation, the suffering of being small. And so they chose a different path. They built not an empire of oppression, but a union of strength, a promise to themselves and to the galaxy. Never again would they kneel, and never again would they allow others to be broken as they once were. In the years that followed, children of Earth and distant colonies grew up hearing the stories of sacrifice, courage, and fire. They learned the names of heroes who gave everything so humanity could stand. They learned of battles where the weak rose against the mighty. And above all, they learned the truth. No empire had ever feared humans, until the day they took the stars. And once the stars were theirs, the galaxy would never forget it, because humans were not made to bow. They were made to rise.